Mhm.
There's a groundbreaking. I think it's in New Zealand. There's a open house in Ghana. I think it is.
Matt, why are you saying I think? You can literally click on the link in the show notes, as can our listeners, and give accurate information. I mean, if you want to.
Oh, I was close. It's Ivory Coast.
As the cold winds of winter sweep in, there's nothing like the warmth of a comforting cup to help you slow down and unwind. This is the season. Let Postum be your cozy companion. Made from roasted grains, Postum is caffeine-free and rich with a smooth roasted flavor. It's the perfect drink for those quiet, chilly mornings. Whether you're curled up with a good book, sharing a laugh with loved ones, or simply watching the snow fall outside, a cup of Postum is the moment you have been waiting for.
Hello and welcome to This Week in Mormons. I'm your host, Matt, along
And
with my
I'm,
sister.
yeah, I thought I'd try jumping in and saying my name's Melissa, but you always introduce me for me. It's great.
Along with my sister Melissa, who so rudely interrupted me as I was about to enter. Today
Matt,
is May the 2nd, 2025, and we're so glad you're with us.
we are. We're so glad you're with us. I'm mainly glad you're with us, Maddie. What's been going on in your world?
Whenever there's a big trial going on, I get way too into court TV. So I've been watching a lot of court TV.
Are we talking about the Daybell trial or something else?
No, there's the Karen Reed trial happening in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
So my family can't stand that I watch it, but every free moment I get, I go onto YouTube and I watch court TV and see. Mostly I like when they cross-examine witnesses. But
Mm-hmm.
speaking of the Daybell trial, I had lunch yesterday with Judge Boyce, the one who was the presiding judge over the both of the Daybell trials in Idaho.
What? How
Yeah,
did that happen?
he was on campus for an event, and then we took him out for lunch as a department. So I was just chatting with him
Wow.
about life as a judge, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Did he drop
he
any
was.
nuggets for us?
I tried. I really tried to get him to say anything about it. What I
Uh-huh.
gathered from him is that he had to live in Boise for a while, and it was a strain on his family,
Uh-huh.
and he would prefer not to do cases that get a lot of publicity.
Okay.
But this is another thing he said. He said that he's been a judge in this position for 6 years, and he has had 6 murder trials in that 6 years.
Wow. Wait,
And
and
he
he's
just
just
he
in the Rexburg area, isn't he?
yeah, he's Madison County and Fremont County, so like St. Anthony.
Y'all are terrible people up there.
I'm trying to understand. So if there's been all of this, like this murder, as he mentioned the cases, I was sort of familiar with them, but it's like, why did the Daybell case get so much attention
Are you
and these other
serious?
ones? Yeah, I'm trying to
Matt,
understand this.
because it took such a weird religious turn, right? Like her whole, well, I don't know about if it was both of them, but her whole thing about like, I didn't kill them because they were actually zombies. So really what I did is
Oh,
kill zombies. And her whole thing about, like that they're preparing the world for the second coming and all of this like preparedness stuff. Like it took so many twists and turns besides just murder. Also,
it's
the
okay.
way they murdered the children and buried them, and it was overboard, horrific.
Okay. It's because it was unusual in so many ways.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
the story is like, I needed drug money and this was a convenient person or a robbery gone awry, that's not
Yeah.
as unusual as the religious
Well,
stuff.
not in Rexburg. Just kidding. I don't know.
Yeah, so there's that. And then one of my second to youngest son moved out of the house this last week, so that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Super fun for me. I don't understand. I don't know if this is a man woman thing or if this is a I'm an insensitive and my wife's not kind of thing.
I'm going to
But
guess that it's B, but go ahead and finish before I tell you for sure.
it was emotionally hard for my wife when my son moved out. And it's still
Okay.
a little bit she's got raw feelings about things. And she wants to do all these things to help him and I'm like, "No, no, no. He's tough. He's a man. Like let him buy his own, I don't know, sandwich bags or something like that."
Mhm. Let me
Is
ask
that
you this.
me
Do you let your wife do nice things for you? Or are you
all the
like,
time?
"No, I'm a man. I'm tough. Don't help me out."
I demand that she does nice
I
things
know
for
you
me.
do, right? Let her be a nice
Yeah.
human being if that's who she wants to be in the world, Matt.
No, I don't
Goodness.
stop her.
I
But
know.
was it hard for you emotionally when your children moved out?
Uh, no. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So kids moving out, it's weird because there's some good and there's some bad. It's like what you've been working for your whole life, right? You've been preparing them to be an adult and to be able to take this step, right? But you miss them for sure. You miss them,
Hmm.
and I think the hardest part is turning off your brain with worrying about them because
Yeah.
you're really not supposed to worry about them in the same way as you have for their entire life, and that's hard.
So maybe that's the problem is that I'm too fast and quick to stop worrying about them.
Yeah, or your wife's just the better parent. It could be either one.
It's probably that.
It's probably that.
Yeah, I stopped worrying about them. No, you're right. I feel a huge sense of relief when a child moves out of the home because I feel like I don't have to worry about them anymore. But
Mhm.
maybe that's not healthy. Maybe I should still a little bit longer like be like,
Yeah, but you don't like the worry feeling. I don't like the worry
no, I
feeling
don't.
either. I
No.
want them to still have a relationship with me and come to me and ask me for help, but I
Yeah.
don't want to worry about the help that they need before they ask me about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and he calls us like every day. He's our only child who after he moved out, he calls us like every day.
Yeah, that's great.
Other kids is like pulling teeth to get them to talk to us.
Right.
Okay, well, let's open the mailbag, Melissa. We have two listener comments from last week.
Oh, are they so sad?
Well, the first one is at Scuba Pilot 2000. They write, "No audio after 10 minutes." This is
Yeah.
from YouTube.
We're
Uh,
sorry.
And then at Chera,
Cherished Lotus.
they also said, "Yes, no audio, frowny face." So
Yeah.
we apologize to our YouTube viewers that we didn't have great audio last week.
Yeah, mainly because the viewers get to see what we look like, and man, we're good-looking
Oh
creatures.
man, you guys are
I
so
know.
lucky on YouTube.
Yeah, but to those of you who are listeners, which is most of you, keep listening. We appreciate you listening, even when we have a little bit of technical difficulty.
Yeah,
And we appreciate you reaching out and letting us know when that happens.
there you go. Melissa, that was so diplomatic.
Thanks.
Okay, Melissa, it's time for Twim Takes. You're up.
That's right. Yeah. So for Twin Takes, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how the church released 3 new gospel topics essays, and I wanted to talk about one of those today. I wanted to talk about the one on religion and science.
Okay, all right. I like this.
I'm not showing any bars.
You're fine.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you know? What do you think the church's position on religion and science is?
I'm going to say that they see no conflict between religion and science, and they say that religion and science both support each other.
Interesting. That's pretty much right. They
Oh.
yeah, pretty much right. I wanted to read this part, okay?
Uh huh.
They said, "It's true that at times the conclusions of science and religion seem inconsistent with each other. But these apparent conflicts are simply reminders that we do not yet understand all there is to know about either religion or science."
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Um,
agree.
I agree too, but I don't think the church usually comes out and says that. Do you?
Um, I think that if I were to say the church's official position, I think they probably do say that officially.
Oh yeah,
Do
this is their official take right here.
Yeah. Do
Do
members
pe-
of the church think that? No, I don't think
no,
so. Yeah.
no, I don't think so either. Um, the other thing, so there's actually a lot of parts of this essay. This is probably one of my favorite gospel topics essays they've ever put out. So
Oh.
we're actually going to focus on just one part of it, okay? But I wanted to tell you this first. The church does not take a position on most scientific matters.
Hmm.
Did you know that?
I don't think that that's
Okay,
okay.
what scientific matter do they take a position on?
Well, okay, so I guess what they would say is they would say, well, if it's a moral issue, I
Mhm.
uh
So you're saying like maybe abortion is a scientific issue and they take a stand on it as a moral issue?
or transgender, right?
Okay,
Like
uh-huh,
if
uh-huh.
someone were to say, hey, people are born with this transgender tendency, I think the church would say they have a position on that.
Interesting.
So they
Yeah,
might say, well, that's maybe not a scientific question, but others would say that's a question of science.
I agree. Interesting.
Vaccines, there's clearly
Mhm.
they'll take a position on. Well,
You're
maybe
doing
I
good,
don't
Matt. No, you're doing good. Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, according to the Gospel Topics essays, the church doesn't take a stand on scientific issues.
100% they did 100 years ago on evolution.
They did.
100%.
Now, a part of this essay is about evolution. We're not going to talk about that now. We might do it on a
Yeah.
Twim Takes later on. But the part we're going to talk about is the creation of the world.
They don't take a stand on the creation of the world.
They do not take a stand on scientific things. However, they do have 4 paragraphs on the creation of the world.
That's
Okay.
maybe that's not a maybe it's my fault for thinking that's a scientific
Okay.
question.
What have you always been taught in church about the creation of the world?
Well, I get taught what the Bible says about the creation of the world, right? That there was these 7 days or these 7 periods and it went in this
Mhm.
particular order.
Mhm.
And I was told many times in seminary that there's no way geologists can be right about the age of the earth
Okay. In
because it
the
doesn't fit with the gospel timeline.
Right, I've been taught that too. According to the Gospel Topics essays, using reliable methods of measurement, such as radiometric dating, the current age of the Earth is estimated to be approximately 4.5 billion years old.
Okay?
Okay, so that's science, and they're just
That's them
stating that.
taking a position on that, right?
They said some people believe such estimates contradict the scriptural teaching that the earth was created in 6 days. Then this is groundbreaking to me. I've never heard this in church. It may be helpful to remember that the creation account in scriptures are not scientific descriptions and that some aspects of them may be figurative.
That I feel like is not what I was taught in seminary.
Me either, but I'm so glad the church is stating that as our doctrine now.
I actually agree with that, and
I do too, yeah.
we talked about this when we interviewed Dan McClellan, that
Mhm.
the creation account in the Bible, there's more than one creation account in the Bible. And in the Pearl of Great Price, there's more than one creation account. They're not uniform and consistent. So if you were to say, what is the Bible creation? There's more than one. What's the scriptural creation? It's not exactly the same. And then there's a part in the Pearl of Great Price where it's like, and this was a spiritual creation, and then there was a physical creation. So it's possible, at least my wife tells me when she reads the Pearl of Great Price, that everything we think of as a scriptural account of the creation is all just the spiritual creation, and we have no account of the physical creation. Well,
Interesting. Yeah.
so I like that the church is saying that there is no official church position on that when
Yeah.
that what that is.
Do you know what I would like the church to also say? Hey,
Mm.
we've published these gospel topics essays. Check them out. And maybe, hey, maybe cite them when you're teaching Sunday school, for example.
Yeah, I wonder if seminary teachers are directed to those before they
I
talk
don't
about.
know. I don't know.
I
Yeah,
would like, if I'm being totally honest, I would like that when somebody has a question about these questions, because these come up all the time.
for sure.
I would like, instead of a church leader telling the answer to the question, that they would just direct people, hey, did you know there's a gospel topics essay on that? You should read that essay and come back and tell me what you
Yeah.
think the answer to that is.
Spoken like a real teacher, Maddie.
Yeah. Well, I do this a lot with my children. We've already covered how I'm not the most amazing parent. I do this all the time with my children to get them to stop talking to me. And so I say, why don't you think about this for a second and then we'll discuss it. And then we never talk about it because they don't want to think about it for a second.
Well, I think the point overall of this essay is feel free to educate yourself and to learn actual facts because overarchingly, the gospel is all truth. Whatever is truth, that is what the gospel is. And so please go ahead and find it, pursue it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a
Now,
fun Twim take, Melissa.
thank
Wait,
you.
are we still doing that one?
No, we can go on to yours, but I just want to make sure I've got no bars on my end.
No, you really do. You're totally fine.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah, I'm
Okay, what have
watching
you
you.
got for Twim Takes?
Okay, this is an editorial. I think the Salt Lake Tribune has a section called Voices where people
Okay.
can just write in and like say what they think.
Well, why don't I do that? I've got a lot of things I think. Oh, wait, is that what this is for?
You have a podcast,
I have
Melissa.
a podcast. I'm fine.
All right, so in this, and we have a link to this in the show notes.
Okay.
But this individual says, I've seen my LDS community rally around painful life experiences. So, for example, like if a family in your ward has a child that dies, or there's some kind of a medical emergency, or even people moving. Like my wife, as compassionate service leader, spends a lot of time helping people clean up their homes and what to pack their things when they're moving and things like that. But she says, but when it comes to divorce, I feel alone.
Mm,
And I think, and then she describes in this article the way that she feels like her church community does not support her through divorce. And I have enough like family members who've gone through divorce that I can say, yeah, I think she's right. I think that we do not rally around people going through divorce.
Interesting. Well, I think you're right. Our mom went through a divorce. I
Yeah.
guess you would say our parents. I say our mom because it's This Week in Mormons, and she's still a member of the church, and our dad is not. But I would say the support was in terms of, do you need some financial help? Do you need some childcare help? But not, do you need religious support from your religious community? Or do you need friends? Like, I feel like she was left without a lot of friends.
Yeah. I think that wards do a great job of rallying around the children who are
Mm,
involved in a divorce. And I feel like our ward did a wonderful job trying to help the kids out. I think that I think that there's always this challenge in like knowing how to support the person who's going through the divorce. I think there's a stigma. I think there's a feeling in the church that if you're getting divorced, you're sinning somehow or doing something wrong.
mhm.
And so there's a little bit of that like, well, I want to love the sinner but hate the sin, and how do I let them know I hate the sin but still love them? I think there's some of that that happens.
Is divorce a sin?
I was reading in the Doctrine and Covenants today, and it's pretty clear it's a sin. But I mean, come on,
Hmm,
um, like divorce itself. I mean, you're breaking a marriage covenant, I guess. It all.
interesting.
I think it would fit in the realm of there are times when divorce is justified and necessary, and there's times when it isn't. But we would say it's sinful, Melissa, to just like get married, divorce for no particular reason.
Would we? I don't know that I would say that. Because I mean, what if you're getting married so that you don't break your chastity covenants? That's
Okay, but
fine.
when I was at BYU, they were like, for a ward activity, we're all going to go to Las Vegas and get married, and then break, and then have some fun,
This
and
is
then
what
get
I'm
divorced.
saying. Yeah,
That's a
this is what I'm
sin.
saying.
That would be a sin.
Okay. I do not believe that I have ever framed divorce as a sin. I have
Mm.
framed There are people that think there are things that people do that are sinful that then lead to divorce, right? Like cheating on your
100%,
spouse or abusing your
100%.
spouse. Those would be sins, but being divorced I would never have classified as a sin.
A lot of members of
Additionally,
our church would. A lot of members of our church would.
we need a gospel topics essay on this.
Yeah, I agree. This would be a good
Okay.
one.
But additionally, I do feel like absolutely you could be prompted and told by the Spirit that you need to be divorced, that you need to get
Yeah.
a divorce, that that is the right and correct choice for you to make. So, do you not then deserve the same support as anybody else?
But I'm just going to say, my close friends and family members who've been divorced, especially the women, it
Mhm.
doesn't happen so much to the men, but it still does a little bit to the men. But the women, especially, will have women in church say to them, you did something wrong. You should have found a way to make your marriage work. Like you, like that they did. And I'm not sure I want you to be a mentor to my children because you're a bad
Mm. Yeah, like you
example.
shouldn't serve in the young women's.
That kind
Like,
of
yeah,
stuff.
because then we want them to have eternal marriages and you don't have one.
Right. And
We're
so
Yeah, we're so judgmental, Matt.
And then with the men that I know, it's usually something along the lines of, "Are you addicted to porn? Do you have some
Mhm.
kind of a porn challenge?" Because like, how is it if there's nothing wrong with you, how is it that you're divorced?
Hmm.
There's a stigma of divorce in our church, and try to come to church as like a single parent without any kids. You're gonna feel no support, like nobody wants you, like not nobody, right? But it's gonna feel that way. You're
It's
gonna feel
rough.
ostracized at church.
Yeah, it's rough.
Hmm.
It's because you're not the ideal.
Uh-huh. But this would be at least 15 years ago. The number was that a third of the members of our church are single, and it's probably
Absolutely.
higher now.
It's over 50%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
currently the members of our church that are single. Whether that means you were divorced or not, it means that the majority of the people in our church do not meet the ideal as outlined in, say, the family proclamation.
So then we have to do a lot better job of making people who are single feel like they are wanted and welcome and a part of things.
Yeah,
Mm.
which is obvious, but I do feel like it's worth talking about because yeah, that's what
Yep.
Twin Takes us for.
I'll do better, Melissa. I
Okay.
will. I will. I hope my wife's on board with this. I will find all the single sisters in our ward and invite
Mhm.
them to sit on the bench with us
Mhm.
so that
Yeah.
they feel a part of things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's the least you could do. Okay.
All right, let's move to quick clips, Melissa.
Okay, let's do. We've been getting some information about church statistics, primarily church growth. There's a great article in the Salt Lake Tribune for those of you who want to read it more in depth about how the church is growing in Spain in particular, and that it is not due to converts, but it is due to people moving to
Yeah,
Spain.
migrants.
Migrants, yeah. There's also a great article about only one United States state saw the membership decline last year. Do you want to guess which state had a decline in membership?
Wyoming.
Matt, that's right. Did you already know?
Yeah, I knew.
Because I wouldn't have guessed Wyoming.
Well, Wyoming has a decline in everything right now. So
Oh,
if you have to choose a state on the decline, choose
it's
Wyoming.
Wyoming. Yeah. Well, I think interestingly, it's a great time to be a missionary because we had more convert baptisms last year than we've had in 27 years. That's at a 27-year
Hmm.
high. And more converts per missionary than we've ever had before.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
But our niece just returned from Milan, Italy on her
Hmm.
mission, and she is bilingual English and Spanish. She grew up because her mother's from Spain and her dad's from the US. So she's fluent in both English and Spanish, and then she learned Italian when she was on her mission. She taught more people that got baptized speaking Spanish than she did Italian
In Italy.
in Italy because there's all these migrants coming from other countries into Europe.
Hmm.
And so this story about Spain, I think, is the story all over Europe right now. Most of the convert baptisms are not natives of that country.
Yeah. Or
And
the increase in membership isn't from natives of that country. It's
yeah,
from,
that's right.
yeah, yeah.
And I remember when I was in London, we went to church in London, and like you think, oh, London, it's going to be Londoners, like white people with British accents. And that was like a minority. That was like 25%. So many refugees, immigrants in London that made up this branch. And it wasn't like we were inner city, it was like in a rural, like not rural, but like suburbs of London. And all across Europe, that's what I see is
Yeah.
migrants to Europe are filling our chapels in those countries.
Which I think is fantastic because when we were young, the trend was once you join the church, then you migrate to Utah, right? Like you
Oh
want to
yeah.
go to Zion. That is not a church trend anymore, which I think is great.
Yeah. Also, I just thought about this whenever I go to Las Vegas. The Las Vegas is a very high baptizing mission.
Hmm.
Most of those people are not like the white middle class people that you think of when you go to church in Utah. It's a
Hmm.
lot of it is racial minorities and people from different backgrounds that are joining the church.
Okay.
Okay, my quick clip is the list of devotional speakers. They put it out. There's now devotionals. If you want to watch a devotional, you're no longer limited to just what BYU does. There is still the BYU devotional. There's the BYU Idaho devotional. There's the BYU Hawaii devotional and the BYU Pathway. Oh, and the Ensign College devotional. 5 devotionals
Okay. Matt,
every
when are you
week.
going to speak at a devotional? That's a lot of opportunities.
Uh, yeah. The people in my department don't often get offered the opportunity to speak at devotional.
You're too polarizing, political scientists.
I think so, and history is in my department too. It could
Oh,
be
wait,
that.
maybe you're too boring.
I'm happy to go with that. BYU Idaho is doing this trend where they're not doing just faculty members. They're doing, for example, in May, it's the director of worldwide online curriculum and instruction, and
Wah,
sometimes
wah. That
they'll
sounds boring.
they'll have like an HR person or someone over janitorial services, or
Yeah,
and they'll also bring people from outside of campus to come and speak at devotional.
yeah.
I I think their motto is if you don't come to devotional, you can't speak at devotional, something like that.
Oh, calling yourself out. Okay,
Yeah,
next up, you know who Jimmer Fredette is.
I love
Jimmer. I
Jimmer.
love
Jimmer's the
Jimmer too.
best.
Jimmer got a new job. Okay. It's kind of a big deal. Jimmer is going to be the first ever managing director of the USA 3-on-3 men's national basketball team. That's a
Oh,
big title. If you had to print that title on your name tag, you would run out of space.
but if you're Jimmer, it's like, hey, it feels like a job that's not playing basketball, so it feels good
Yeah.
inside.
Well, he did really good on the 3-on-3 basketball in the Olympics, and so now he's gonna take over as managing director of the sport, which doesn't mean that he's coaching, but he's finding coaches, he's finding players, he's
Recruiting
really
people.
developing that whole entire program. So, good for you, Jimmer, and I'm available. I'm available if you need someone.
Did you watch them in the Olympics? They had
Yeah, it was fun to watch.
one of the guys would shoot his free throws granny style, underhand.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, I have some Temple Square renovations news. You can follow the link if you're interested in seeing the artwork inside of the Salt Lake Temple.
Okay.
Um, they're spending a lot of money and a lot of time, like painting all the little intricate details. And then there's some temple news. So the Fairview Temple in Texas was finally approved. So that fight that we've been discussing for over a year
Mhm.
hopefully is over now.
Mhm.
There's a groundbreaking. I think it's in New Zealand. There's a open house in Ghana. I think it is.
Matt, why are you saying "I think"? You can literally click on the link in the show notes, as can our listeners, and give accurate information, I mean, if you want to.
Oh, I was close. It's Ivory Coast, not
Okay.
Ghana.
Okay.
They broke ground for a temple in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada, and they announced there's so much temple news.
I know.
Melissa, I just don't get excited about the temple news. That's my problem.
Okay, I think this is okay. I think it's okay for us to say, "Hey, listener, we're gonna always link to the temple news, but we're not gonna go through it because,
Ugh,
frankly, there's too much." And if
yeah.
there's a temple that's important to you, we are so happy for you. And
Yes.
hopefully everywhere in the world, there's a temple for someone, but there's so many to keep track of, which is great.
It's to the point now, Melissa, if I go someplace and there's not a temple, I'm like, what's wrong with this place?
Yeah.
Because there really is a temple almost
It's
everywhere I
probably
go.
just full of divorced people.
Well, on
Too
my
soon.
cruise, I went to
Inappropriate.
I went to Dominica, an island in the Caribbean, and I was like, "No temple here. What's wrong?" And they're like, "Well, there's only so many members of the church here, and we have a
Yeah.
temple in Puerto Rico, so we can travel to that." So anyhow, it's nothing. It's not divorced people, Melissa.
I know. It was a bad joke. I'm
No, it was fine. It
sorry.
was fine.
Okay, next up, the White House every year hosts a National Day of Prayer event, and our church sent to represent us at the National Day of Prayer Sister Tracy Y. Browning. She's in the primary
I
general
love her.
presidency. I love her too, but I have to say this. Did we give her a middle initial just so she could sound like an official general authority? When did she change from Sister Tracy Browning to Sister Tracy Y. Browning?
I think her middle name is Yvette.
I'm sure that it is her middle name. I'm sure that that's
I
the right
actually don't
initial.
know.
I'm just saying, this whole thing where we add on your middle initial to make you sound important, I don't like it.
I'm looking at her official page on the church. It
Yeah,
doesn't tell me what the Y is for.
yeah.
So,
Well, when I
Sister
get
Browning,
called
I
to
hope it's
the
Yvette.
general board of whichever general board I'm gonna get called to, I'm not going by Melissa Miles Jensen. I'm going by Millie J.
Hey, you
Sister
can't
Millie
do
J
that.
attended. I am going to.
President Meredith goes by Tripp,
Yeah.
but everywhere he goes, he's introduced as Alvin F. Meredith III.
Exactly. That's
He
right.
doesn't ever only
But that
people who
doesn't fit
know
his
him as Tripp.
personality. His personality, and by the way, listener, please check out our interview with him, which was
Oh yeah,
phenomenal, but you really get to know his personality. He's a trip, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
that's his personality. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm
Okay,
done with these formal titles.
okay.
Okay.
That's an interesting take on that particular story of the
I know.
national.
I'm sorry I had a rant about the National Day of Prayer. Hey, I there is a spin-off story on this National Day of Prayer. Anyways, Sister Browning went, she represented us well. She had some lovely things to say. Donald Trump at the National Day of Prayer, he signed an executive order establishing a presidential commission on religious liberty. Now
Yeah,
that's where I stopped reading. But I do think that President Oaks would be really happy about this because I know he's given a lot of talks about religious liberty. Do you know anything more about this, Matt?
I have not studied that issue.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
he just wants to make sure that people are able to exercise their religious rights in things like schools and jobs, and I don't know.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure that I'm not sure that I would describe it that way.
Well,
But yeah.
that's how he described it.
Oh, okay.
But
I
we're
just
all
want to.
for religious liberty.
Of course. I just I just want to say again, I really like Sister Browning. She's
Okay.
so fun.
Okay,
And
thanks.
if we could only send one person to represent us at anything, I say always send her because
Okay,
whoever meets her will be like, "Wow, I like that church."
good.
Because
That's good.
she's just fun.
You know what? Maybe she should give a devotional talk.
Uh, she did speak at graduation. That's how I got to know her. She spoke at
Okay.
our graduation.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right.
She would do a great job speaking at devotional.
I think so too.
Okay, the next story is that there was a new high school being built in Arizona, and the church had school board approval to build a seminary on the school grounds, and the community organized, and they shot it down. So there will no longer be a seminary at this high school in Arizona.
Well, this sounds like something that a panel on religious liberty should address.
Well, so the church says that they do value their religious liberty rights, but they don't want to create a. Well, their official word was kerfuffle in the. Just kidding.
No, it
They didn't-
wasn't.
it
It
wasn't
was not.
in the community. I have mixed feelings about this because I understand why the church should be able to build a church building and have
Yeah.
seminary students go there. But this church building was going to be built on the school grounds. In Utah, we always put it like across the street from the school, or there's this special space near the school, but it's not on school property.
Okay, so are we just gonna do that now? Like move where it's at off of school property?
I don't think there was a place for them to do it in Arizona.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I do have I'm okay with the city saying you can't, unless you're going to let every single church that wants to build a church on your school property build one, then you
Mhm.
can't let our church do it and no other church do it.
Yeah, I agree.
But again, I also, Melissa, I'm on record as saying I don't love release time seminary.
That's what I was about to say, but also in general, we are anti-release time
I
seminary.
don't love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Yeah. We could talk more about that, but we're not going to because this is quick clips.
Yeah, it's
So
quick
Matt,
clips.
in other things that bless the lives of youths
Hmm.
besides seminary, we've got the Global Youth Service Day.
Oh,
Every ward or stake decided how they would celebrate this day sometime in April. And the Church News has put out an article just highlighting a ways that a lot of people around the world did their youth service. Did your ward do something like this?
oh, I'm sure they did, and I'm sure we were invited, and I'm not so sure if we actually participated.
Okay. Yeah. I don't have any youth, so I'm not really involved in this part of the church either. But there was a lot of coordination with the Just Serve app, which I have used before and is a great app. And there was a lot of good done by youth throughout the world. So, hey, we see you. We
Follow
see you. Yeah.
follow that link if you want to know more about that.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, the LDS Church has filed an appeal after the court sided with the opposition in a sex abuse settlement lawsuit. So, what happened was the church settled some case related to sex abuse. I think it was in the state of Virginia.
Okay.
And the church has insurance that if the church pleads guilty or whatever, if the church, anyhow, the insurance says that, according to the church, their insurance says that the insurance company will fight the case for them and pay out the settlement for them if there's
Okay.
some settlement that says the church has to pay money.
Okay.
And the insurance company said, we're not going to pay. And the church said, you should pay. And so they lost in court, and they
Okay.
lost an appeal, and now they're filing another appeal to try to
Okay.
get this insurance company to pay the money.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because I could see how this could be spinned a lot of different ways as though the church is like not taking responsibility for this abuse case, which it
Yeah,
sounds like it actually has nothing to do with.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
but did you know you could buy that kind of insurance?
Well, I've never had need of it, but
That's that's what's kind of fun. Let's say that your daughter wants to date a guy, and you find out that this young man has $1 million of insurance in if I get accused of sexual assault and
okay,
I
yeah.
and there's a civil suit against me, my insurance will pay for.
Okay.
Would that
Okay.
raise any like red flags for you? You'd be like, "Wait a second, why do you have
Nah.
this kind of?" And he's like, "You never know what happens. I'm the kind of guy that people just make false
They just
accusations."
accuse all the time. Yeah. Listen, as a general rule, I'm not going to make any assumptions about you based on your insurance purchases. Okay, as a general rule. However, I do know that in courts of law, you are often convicted if you get a payout of life insurance, no matter
Oh,
the reason you have life insurance, which the majority of adults do. It's always the reason you killed your husband. So,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's a slippery slope.
Oh man, could you imagine you get accused of like sexual assault or something and then they find out that you have that insurance and they're like,
Yeah,
"Wait a minute. Why would you
yeah.
have that insurance if you weren't guilty?"
Dateline is just waiting to cover this.
Well, I don't even know if individuals can get it, but I thought the thing I thought most fascinating about that story is that not only does the church have it, but the fact that it actually exists, that you can
Yeah,
insure.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in the wrong business. I should be selling that insurance to people.
No,
You never know when you're going to get accused of sexual assault.
that's right.
$50 a month will keep you safe. It'll keep your. All right, let's go to This Week in Mormon History.
Yes, this week in Mormon history. What have you got for me? You know how I love the history lessons.
I told you that I'm on a bit of a like crime streak. And so
Good.
it influenced my first This Week in Mormon History. I'm going to see
Okay.
if you remember this. So this would be 40 years ago, 1985.
So when I was 10 years old,
The Deseret News publishes the content of a revelation found in Ron Lafferty's pocket the day he was arrested. And
Ron
basically,
Lafferty, that does sound familiar.
okay, so I'm going to summarize the revelation, but basically the revelation is that the Lord is saying that some of these people need to be killed. So his brother's wife Brenda, her baby Chloe Law, and Richard Stowe, and they need to be removed in rapid succession. Anyhow,
Okay,
Ron.
so my man Ron Lafferty is
Mhm,
carrying around a revelation that says he's allowed to kill people.
mhm.
Okay.
And he and his brother Dan murdered Brenda and her baby, but they were arrested before they could kill the other two people in the revelation.
Wow, we talked about the Daybell vibes. This
Yeah.
is wait, was there a Hulu show about this?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
But
okay.
but do you remember it as a child on the news all the time, the Lafferty brothers and their trial?
No.
Yeah, it
But,
was,
I wasn't as much of a true crime aficionado back then
but our
as you
mother
were.
was.
Yeah,
Our, our
I
yeah,
would
so
be today.
when we were like kids, this was the big story in Utah. So it's 40 years ago, that big story. And actually, my sister-in-law lived in the ward with the Lafferty brothers.
Hmm.
She regularly will tell people about that, and most people are like you. They're like, "Huh? Who are the Lafferty brothers?"
Well, in a lot of ways, history is repeating itself, right?
Mhm.
Like, yeah, weird.
Our older listeners will love will be very aware of the Lafferty brother story,
Mhm.
and then they'll say, "How could Melissa not know?" Next week, we're going to get all kinds of comments. How do you not know about this revelation to kill her baby?
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Okay,
sorry. Okay. What else have you got this week in Mormon
now I'm
history?
going a little more lighthearted.
Okay.
90 years ago, 1935. Heber J. Grant tells this story. He said, Abraham Lincoln has been referred to by some as the ugliest man that ever lived. The story goes that on one occasion he met my father in law, Daniel H. Wells, and said to him, Wells, prepare to die. I have sworn that if I ever met a man uglier than myself, I would shoot him. Daniel H. Wells is reported to have said, Shoot, Abe. If I'm uglier than you, I want to die.
What? Is this just like apostle gossip? What?
Yeah. Well, because Abraham Lincoln was from Illinois, right? And so the church is sort of Abraham Lincoln and church leaders knew each other, at least
Yeah,
knew
yeah,
of
yeah,
each other.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
That is
yeah.
so funny. But Heber J.
Mhm.
Grant, was he a prophet?
Yeah, he was prophet at
Oh
the
my
time
goodness.
when he was telling this story.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
I love a story about a prophet that has a good sense of humor and is just like a normal guy. I love
Yeah.
it.
Well, and
Okay.
also Abraham Lincoln, right? It makes Abraham Lincoln seem like just a regular old fella.
Yeah. But do you really think he was ugly? Because a lot of history teachers think he is like A1 number cool guy.
I do. I have several pictures of Abraham Lincoln in my office, and I teach the
Uh-huh.
presidency, so I look at him all the time. Yeah, he's a very ugly man. There's no picture of him. Here's a picture of him from an early photo of him from when he was younger.
Yeah.
That's not particularly attractive.
Matt, I think by today's standards, I think he's attractive by today's standards.
Really?
Yeah, I think he
That
has
guy?
like yeah, I think he has like a very modern people would find him attractive. Yeah. Maybe
This is
not
my
back in the day.
This is my favorite picture of him. This is his war cabinet. I like it because this guy looks like Brigham Young, and so I'll always be like Brigham Young. But speaking of like weird way people looked back in the day,
Yeah.
there was this April Fool's Day like fake news story where they're like, BYU Idaho says beards are allowed as long as it's a Brigham Young beard with no mustache. You have to do like the
They
Brigham
should
Young.
allow that. All right, let's jump to big deal, little deal, no deal.
Okay. Oh, I love this story so much. Okay.
Okay.
The "You Are My Forbidden Fruit" has me. Teen Mormon boyfriend dumps her via email, then she monologues it. Here is the TikTok video. Is that a big deal? I know. Big
I'm con-
deal, little deal, no deal. 3, 2, 1. Big
Big
deal. It's a
deal.
big deal.
This has clickbait all over it. We've got TikTok, we've got forbidden fruit, and we've got a teenage dump story. I don't even know what we're talking about, but I'm in. I'm
Okay,
in.
so there's a missionary. He's got 19 months left on his mission. So that means he's been out, what, like 5 months?
Sure.
Writes an email to his girlfriend who's in high school, dumping her.
Ah.
And he says to her things along the lines of, "You are my great and spacious building, although you're not large, but you know
Oh.
what I mean.
Oh.
You're my forbidden fruit."
So
Like,
like she's the temptress that is ruining him on his mission.
yes. And it's all about how he needs to focus on his mission and stuff like that.
Listen. First of all, my guy, you are the problem. First of all, okay.
Well, so what
Second of
happened?
all, could you think of a more LDS breakup? Like, that is
Exactly.
hilarious. Okay.
Yeah. So she's like a drama student and she has to do a monologue for a competition. So her monologue is she dresses up as a Mormon missionary and sits
No.
and pretends to be typing out this email breaking up with his girlfriend. Yeah,
She monologues the breakup letter?
he does. And then she goes on to the state competition and records the whole thing and puts it on TikTok.
She makes it to state and
Yeah.
monologues. Oh, this
She
is
got his
amazing.
permission, by the way, and it has over 9 million views. And everyone's like, what kind of moron gives permission to their theater girlfriend to like monologue their breakup letter? But yeah,
I'm joining TikTok just to watch this.
there's a
This is
link
the
to it.
biggest deal we've ever covered in all of This Week in Mormons. This
I love
is
it so much. All the comments are
amazing.
like that it's not a unique story, Melissa. Guys on missions do this all the time to girls where they're like,
Oh my
I have to
gosh.
give all of my attention to God, and I can't if I'm thinking about you all the time.
Yes, but the lingo, great and spacious building, forbidden fruit. Are
I
we for
know.
reals? I can't
I know.
wait.
Yeah.
I hope that every theater student in all high schools across America pick this up and enact it. That's amazing. Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny.
Yep.
I love high school students.
Mhm.
Okay, here's my story. Do you remember who Ammon Bundy is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Just for our listeners, he is an LDS. He is a member of our church. Okay, he is
Let's describe
also
other words. An insurrectionist. He had a
okay.
protest at a hospital. He was sued by
He's
the
a
hospital.
fugitive. He's
Yes.
wanted for
Yes.
crimes.
Yes.
I just want us to know who we are.
And former governor gubernatorial candidate in the state of Idaho. He ran for
Okay,
governor.
right. Okay. Well, I just wanted everyone to know who he is before I read this headline. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Ammon Bundy has a warning for MAGA crowd about Donald Trump. Big deal, little deal, no deal. 3, 2, 1.
No deal.
No
No
deal.
deal.
But I still want to talk about it.
Yeah.
The Salt Lake Tribune did an exclusive interview with Ammon Bundy, and they have published everything that he wants to talk about. And that is why this is no deal, because literally, why are we giving Ammon Bundy such a voice, such a
Right.
platform?
Right.
He's wanted in Idaho, but he's
Yes.
hiding out in Cedar City. Apparently, we know where he is, and he does interviews, but I don't know.
Why don't the police just go pick him up?
I don't know. I don't know, but this article says he's been living in Utah for nearly 18 months, evading an arrest warrant out of Idaho.
Do you know the part in the story that irks me, that bothers me?
What?
He has a current temple recommend.
How do you know?
Because he says that in the interview.
Oh,
Like, seriously, why does Ammon Bundy get to have a current temple recommend when he is a
okay.
fugitive on the run? And he
I
owes
don't know.
In the Temple Recommend interview, it asks, do you keep, like, if you have children that you have child support for, they ask, are you current in your child support? Why would
Mhm.
we not ask, are you current in your $100 million lawsuit to St. Luke's Hospital in the state of Idaho?
Hmm.
Or are you trying to not pay them the money that you owe them?
Hmm.
Like, I think that would be a legit question for a Temple Recommend interview.
Well, I think you're correct. He spouts off on a lot of things: Donald Trump, the MAGA movement, Elon Musk, immigration. Listen to
Mhm.
his thoughts on immigration. Okay. I don't look at people who come into another land or across some line as criminals.
Oh,
Shocking, because that's what you're doing, my friend. Shocking. Okay.
I look at them as legitimate people fleeing the law.
Yeah. Okay. So, uh, a
What
couple of,
what
go
is his
ahead.
warning about Trump? What?
I don't even wanna
Oh,
get
okay.
into that because he again, I don't wanna give him too much of a platform,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but I do wanna say this. He does talk about how, as part of Latter-day Saint theology, we are okay to join militia groups,
Oh.
okay?
Hmm.
Because he says when you look at LDS history, members were peaceful, organizing under religion, and they were attacked for that. Our people were murdered, raped, their lands were taken away, and we were driven out of the United States. Again, this is all part of church history. And what did the federal government say? Your cause is just, but I can do nothing for you. So he
Uh,
is basically saying, like, I am in line with my church's religious beliefs and the way that we have always lived. And he does say we're living in the last days. And so I his cause is just.
I love
So
how he takes a quote from James Buchanan from like 1840, and it says that it and puts it in the context of the saints leaving the United States in the 1850s, right? 1847, right? Like the whole timeline is all sort of like mixed up and crazy.
well, I
But
wouldn't know, Matt. I wouldn't
oh,
know. But
well, apparently
according
neither would Ammon Bundy.
yeah, apparently not.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
listen,
No deal. So
twin
we.
sisters, he has already won Mormons Behaving Badly of the
Oh,
century, so I
yeah.
don't think we need to emphasize that more, but yeah, he's giving exclusive interviews now, just so you know.
Wow.
Mhm.
Should we try and have him on our podcast? Ask
Yeah,
him.
let's do yeah, sure, why
No,
not?
no, I don't wanna talk to him. Okay, do you know who Cody Brown is? Starts with a K, Cody Brown.
No.
There's a TV show very popular called Sister Wives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of Sister
I
Wives.
think
I've
it had,
never
like,
watched it, but
yeah,
very popular.
I watched 2 or 3 episodes of it. I
Okay.
think it went for 7 seasons.
Okay.
Okay, so Cody Brown, he's the husband in
Okay,
Sister
wait,
Wives.
so is he LDS or
Um,
LDS adjacent?
he is no longer religious, but he was part of a splinter group from our church that practices polygamy.
Okay, got it.
So the TV show probably would have called him a Mormon polygamist, but it would have been
Uh-huh.
Mormon, like not our church. Okay.
Okay.
Cody Brown says religion wasn't a cult, but says the institution of marriage is. Big deal.
Okay.
Little deal. No deal. Three, two, one.
Big deal.
Okay.
Well,
I can't decide.
if he's such a big celebrity, everybody knows who he is. His show went on
Yeah,
forever.
that's true.
When
Okay. Big
yeah.
deal. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, but
How
also,
hilarious that marriage is a
why
cult.
is he among the wait, are we not supporting him as a divorced member of our church? Is he divorced? Is
He
that
is.
why marriage is
Of the 4 wives that I saw he had on the show, 3 of them have left him.
Oh,
And he's no longer a part of the church he was in. He's sort of non-religious. But I just think it's just so funny to be like, marriage is a cult. I'm like, maybe your marriage was a cult,
because
but
he married so many women? Wait, can
yeah,
you legally marry that many
no,
women?
no.
Okay, so he can't also legally be divorced then,
They would
if you're
like,
not
yeah, I
legally
think that's
married.
right. I think that's right. But they've all left him. At
Okay.
some point, he had to flee Lehi, Utah, and go to Las Vegas. And when
Okay.
he did that, it all sort of fell apart. And none of his children are in polygamous relationships. So whatever it was he was doing or trying to build, it all kind of fell
So
apart.
he wasn't a part of a polygamous community, he was just like, "Hey, I practice this?"
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, he was part of a religion that believes in polygamy, and
Mhm.
his wives were also sort of part. Again, I haven't watched the show, but from what I gathered, his wives were
Mhm.
part of that faith too.
Mhm. I
But
gotcha.
at one point, there was like legal problems, and so he had to leave Utah and go to Las Vegas, and then it all kind of fell apart. He was doing like multiple different houses. His wife would live in different homes and things like that.
Okay. Matt, do you think our church, mainstream Latter-day Saints, is ever going to get separated from polygamy.
No.
We will always be connected with it to the rest of the world, even to our members.
Yes. Yeah.
Because why?
Yeah, because it's so much a part of our theology. Because
It's not part of our theology.
there's a section in the Doctrine and Covenants, 132, that's all about plural marriage. And
Yeah,
and it was taught for so long as like, you know how today we say you can't be saved unless you get married in the temple?
okay.
In 1850, they would have said you can't be saved if you don't get married in a polygamous relationship.
Yeah, but we don't say that anymore.
I know, but we did for a long time, so we can't run away from that. We can't say it's not part of our theology.
It's not part of our theology.
We always have to say it was and it's not anymore.
Okay. Yeah, I would really just like to see us not be associated with polygamy because it is not something we practice. I've never known anybody in my real life, in my real church who practices polygamy.
No,
Ever.
that's
Like it's
true.
just not a thing,
That's
you
true.
know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I just
But stereotypes are so rarely based on anything accurate.
hmm, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Also, since we're on the topic, and we're not really, but like, why is polygamy so bad? Like, we look at it so negatively, and I do too. Like, I'm against it,
Tell me
but
more.
also morally in the world. But we don't look as bad on as we do at polygamy as people who just have multiple partners, right? Like if a man like if a man's a cheater, like he's a serial cheater, we just are like, well, yeah, but sometimes people cheat.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm expressing this well, but like
I
there
don't
are
know if
so many people who are unfaithful in their marriages,
yes.
and we don't look at them nearly as badly as we look at people who are in a committed polygamous relationship. Again, I don't like either one, but I do think it's interesting that one is illegal and one is just like, yeah, you shouldn't do that.
I think that polygamy is equated with being swingers, where
Hmm.
right where it's like, okay, you should have a commitment to each other that is monogamous in certain
Mhm.
ways. And so, if you're agreeing to not be monogamous with a person in a marriage,
Mhm.
then you're agreeing to something that we think of as unusual or strange or not fitting the way we all think of what a relationship should look like.
Yeah,
So
but if
it's
you're gonna break a covenant or break a marriage covenant, whether it's, a temple covenant or not, but if you're gonna break a marriage vow and cheat, yeah, you just shouldn't do that.
if you stay with a cheater, you're thought of as like not a very strong, admirable person, right?
I don't think so these days as much.
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know.
we might be going into a tangent that I haven't really thought through that much anyways.
Let's do a
Should
different topic.
let's move on. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
move on. Okay. Listen, it's time to talk about children. Okay, here's our next story. When screen time becomes gospel time.
Oh boy.
Here's a lot of kid-friendly come follow me resources.
Oh
Big
no,
deal, little deal, or no deal. 3, 2, 1.
I'm conflicted. Like
You have to
it's
say
both
3, 2, 1.
big deal.
Big deal. Why are
The
you
first part
conflicted?
because the first part is so lame.
No, it's not.
Screen time becomes gospel time. I hate it.
I do too. That's
Kid
a big
friendly,
part
come
of the
follow me.
story, though.
Kid friendly, come follow me resources is a big deal. Like we need lots and lots and lots of those.
Anytime you can farm out your parenting, you're in, is what you're saying.
Well, no,
Me too. I wish I had more resources when I was a parent of young kids.
but mostly as a primary worker. Like the more come follow me resources for kids, the better.
I see.
There are the primary teachers that are in my ward in the class that I go to right now. I just feel for them because they want to sit these like 7-year-old kids down and read scriptures with them and like ponder on the deep meaning of the verses. And I'm like, just show them the Lego Come Follow Me movie. Now show them this other cartoon Come Follow Me
Yeah.
show. Now show them this other one. And through
But Matt,
3
that's not what I
cartoons,
send my kids to primary for.
what do you send them to primary? What are you hoping they're going to get out of that 20 minutes of lesson with their
I'm
primary?
hoping they're gonna get thoughtful testimony from another member of the ward.
You would not like me as a teacher. What I
Mm.
do when it's my turn to teach is there's this game called Don't Eat Pete, and you put candy on the board, and everybody chooses the square, and you get to eat candy until you choose that square, and then they shout, Don't eat Pete, and then you have to stop eating candy. And I
Okay.
come in and I say, okay, if you get 2 frowny faces, nobody gets to play the game. But for every check mark you get, that's a round of the game you get to play of Don't Eat Pete. And
Okay.
so I say, who wants to say the opening prayer? And if you say the opening prayer, you get to have a check mark by your name or a smiley face. And
Mhm.
then what happens, Melissa, is every single kid in the class wants to say the opening prayer. So we
Mhm.
say 15 opening prayers because they all want to say the opening prayer and get a little smiley face. Same thing with the
Matt,
closing prayer.
you're teaching you're teaching obedience, but you are
Prayer.
not teaching the gospel.
They're praying in primary. That's
Yeah.
so awesome. Kids hate praying in primary.
Yeah, I
Not when
know.
I
I
teach
know. But
kids who
now
would
you've got
never
them
say
all
prayer.
to follow follow you obediently. But Matt, okay, listen, I don't actually care how you handle your class. It's fine. This is twofold to me, this story, and I think it is kind of a big deal. First of all, I cannot believe, and listeners, you can click on the link. It's great. I cannot believe how many LDS podcasts for kids, YouTube channels for kids
Mhm.
there are. Like, this is blowing my mind. I had no idea. And good on you, members of the church, for putting out content. I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. And if
Yeah.
you're making money on it, I still don't care. That's fine. Go for it. But the second part of this story to me is the whole screen time thing. Like,
Mm.
we're overdoing the screen time in order to teach our children the gospel, right?
You're saying there's too much screen time?
Way too much screen time.
Mhm.
Way too much, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I taught when I taught Sunday school, we would throw in videos. For sure we would. We would throw in clips from podcasts. Sure, that's fine. Whatever, that's fine. But we're using screen time to be the teacher. And that
Wait,
to
I
me
just
is
described this.
crossing a line. I know. To me, I like how do you feel the spirit, right?
Through the video, through the content.
Yeah,
That's why people watch,
I think we're
The
relying
Chosen.
on it too much. Yeah, I think we're
Yeah.
relying on it too much. And I'm not against technology. I love technology. And I love, again, all these things that these people are doing to use technology. I do think that we're missing important components when we use technology to teach the
Melissa,
gospel this
you
much.
sound like the seminary teachers who say, "You have to bring paper scriptures to seminary
I think that's a great
because
idea.
the phone is not." Hmm.
Because guess what you're not doing on your phone? Reading the scriptures. Guess what you are doing? Snapchatting. Let's be
Mm.
honest. Okay.
Well, so then maybe it's important to teach kids how to use that. I'm not gonna fight that other side. I agree with you.
You should
Kids.
teach kids how to use technology, but you
Yeah.
shouldn't do that in primary. Like that
Well,
that
one of the reasons my son wanted to move out was because we would limit his screen time on his
yeah.
phone, and
Yeah.
he wanted unlimited screen time on his phone, and so it's like, you can't do that if you live here. You'll have to
Yeah.
find. You can live on your own, pay your own bill, do your own thing, but if you're
Right.
here, we're gonna put limits on it because you can't do that.
Yeah. And when your kids turn 18 and become adults, they have to navigate all of this stuff, right? That's a big thing. That happened with all of my kids too, right? Like, I didn't let my kids have social media until they turned 17. That is dang old to have to wait to get your social media account, right? Like,
Yeah.
I was pretty strict about it. But again, my education is all about technology and what it does to your mind and to your developing brain and to your social skills. And that was important to us, but it's not important to everyone. Not everybody has to have the same rules. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, hey, can we stop a minute and think about when we start handing our babies these screens in the back seat to keep them occupied? And even if it's a really good thing, like a YouTube video Lego about the Book of Mormon, even if it's a really great come follow me thing that we're handing back to them, I'm not sure this is the right way to teach the gospel exclusively. I'm not,
Yeah.
insert it, that's fine, but exclusively. That's all I'm concerned about.
I don't know if I told you this, but when I met my granddaughter, she's 7 months old,
Mhm.
and I would be holding her, and I have a smartwatch. At 7 months old, she figured out how to scroll through the smartwatch, and
Mm.
so she would, if I let her, she would for 30 minutes just scroll through the smartwatch, pushing the buttons. There was one night she turned on an alarm, and it woke me up in the middle of the night. I was like, "Oh, she changed all my settings." But it's like 7 months old, Melissa.
Yeah.
Kids are into screens and swiping and scrolling and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the other
yeah.
toys
It's
we have,
very
she
intuitive.
wants.
If you hand it to them, of course, it's exciting and entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we've talked about this enough.
Okay, my topic. First Presidency addresses the question: can members be asked about their immigration status in temple interviews? Is that a big
Oh,
deal, little deal, or no deal? Three, two, one. Big deal.
No
No,
deal.
big deal.
The temple interview questions are set. What do you mean, can they be asked
Well,
about it?
so if the fact that the first presidency has to put out a statement saying, "Don't ask about immigration status, just stick to the questions," means that some people were asking about immigration status as part of temple recommend interviews.
Oh, and
Yeah,
so the first presidency did put out something and said,
don't
"Knock
do
it
it.
off,"
Yeah,
basically?
yeah,
That is a big deal, you're right.
yeah. Okay, that's all there is to say about that. If you're a bishop and you've been asking that question, you should stop.
Please stop. Yeah. Okay, okay, sounds good. Alright, here's my last story, okay?
Hmm.
National data doesn't confirm popular distortions about Latter-day Saint women. Big deal, little deal, or no deal? 3,
Uh-huh.
2, 1.
Middle deal.
Little deal.
Big deal, little deal.
It's called a little deal.
Little deal.
Yeah, I would say little deal. This is an opinion piece by the Deseret News, and it's really actually very good. But it talks about how there is a probably two different, completely different perceptions about Latter-day Saint women. What do you think when somebody says, "Are you LDS?" to a woman? What is the perception about an LDS woman out there in the world?
Oppressed, unhappy,
Okay,
probably like taking antidepressants,
okay,
maybe makes her own clothes,
okay, sure, sure.
or it's the flip side. It's the
Or the
Saturday Night
exact
Live.
opposite,
Yeah.
right? Which is
Mhm.
what?
Ballerina, TikTok or Instagram.
Ballerina Farm, Secret
Yeah.
Lives of Mormon Wives.
Mhm.
Sure, sure, sure. So I think that I
But
know both of those people, right?
but by the way, they would still say both of them are oppressed and unhappy.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more. What?
They say that Ballerina, Farm Girl, and even Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, people will say that these women are oppressed and not liberated and all that stuff. Like,
They're like boss women.
I understand, but they still say that like their husband, they still have to ask their husbands for permission before they do anything. Or they
Interesting.
or they're always like trying to please their husbands, which suggests they don't have a good, happy marriage if you're worried about making your husband happy all the time.
Interesting. Huh.
I don't
Okay.
think that. I'm just saying that's what I hear from people.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, according to research, okay, of religious people, LDS women, of religious women, LDS women actually report that they are happier than any other religious group.
Of
So
course.
they're happy. They also report peacefulness, a high report of peace in their lives,
Mhm.
and they're also more religious than other religious women.
Like they do the religious things like pray and go to
They do the
church and
religious things, right? They
Mhm.
practice their religion.
None
Yeah.
of those things
Yeah.
surprise me.
They don't surprise me either, but that is not how we're described as happy women, as peaceful women, as people who love living the gospel.
Probably what we should do, Melissa, is we should just start a campaign that says, "Will you look at the data?
Hmm.
Describe us by the data, not by these
Do you know what I
stereotypes."
think would be better is if we just said, "Hey, talk to one of us."
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen one of us or met one of us in real life, right?
Yeah.
Because anytime I run into a real person in real life and have an actual conversation with them, I find them to be very different than what people say they are. Yeah.
And the truth is, when I meet people who are not members of the church, and they like, if I go to a place where not Utah, right? But if I go to a place where there's not a lot of members of the church, and I talk to someone, and they find out that I'm a member of the church, they'll frequently say, "Oh, I knew a member of the church once," and then they'll
Yeah.
describe them, and they always describe them as happy,
Right.
friendly, service-oriented,
Yeah.
kind. Yeah. So it's true. The popular misconceptions are only like popular. They're just everybody. You should believe those as much as you believe any popular misconception about
Yeah.
a group.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Okay, time to move on to our final segment, which is Goodly
I'm so
Reads.
excited about this week.
Okay, well, mine is a book by Dan McClellan, who we did already mention earlier in this
Yeah.
podcast. Dan McClellan, we interviewed him, it's probably been 6 or 8 months ago. He was a
Mhm.
fantastic interview. He's a Bible scholar.
Mhm.
He is also active Latter-day Saint,
Yes.
and he is wildly popular on TikTok. He is
Yes.
huge on TikTok because he posts a bunch of short little things about here is what you think the Bible says, here's what the Bible actually says. It's his whole entire research study is on the Bible. He's published a new book. It just came out yesterday. It's called The Bible Says So. I haven't read it all the way through yet, Matt. I'm going to be honest, but I
Mhm.
don't care. I like Dan McClellan and all of the stuff that he puts out there so much that I'm
Yeah.
going to recommend this book anyways. Listeners, if you want to click on our links in the show notes, the Salt Lake Tribune did do a really good interview with him too, where you can hear a little bit more about his book. But I would recommend that that you tune into our interview with him or that you grab this book. Really interesting. And Dan also has a really fun way and of speaking and relating things. So
I imagine that if our listeners were to listen to that interview
Mhm.
and just kind of what he says about things, they would say, "Hey, he's got a really fun personality. I really like
yeah,
his take. I like what he's trying to do." He's
yeah.
very serious. It's true. He's a very serious
Very
fella.
serious. But he
But
answers things like, what does the Bible actually say about when life begins? What does the Bible actually say about should you spank your kids? Like the
Mhm.
most everyday practical things. What does the Bible actually say about it? So it's
He
great.
knows the Bible so well.
Hmm.
And I liked we would try to bring in LDS theology from time to time, and he'd be like,
Uh-huh.
"I'm not here to do that. I just talk about what the Bible says and what the
Yeah.
Bible doesn't say."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
What
I
have you
think
got for
people will
Goodly Reads? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think people will be surprised by the things that Dan McClellan finds in the Bible and does not find in the Bible.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, now this is good. I remember that I promised that I was going to do like better research and find books that I could actually recommend for Goodly Reads. This one I don't know that I would necessarily recommend.
But you want to talk about it?
I do.
Okay.
There's a
Okay.
guy who self-published a book. Let me find the name of this book. It's covered in this website called Newswires. Okay, the book is
Okay.
called The Mormon Mafia and Me. It's
Oh,
by Brett L. Eliason, and he makes some pretty salacious claims about Curtin McConkie, which is the law firm that represents the church,
yeah.
and their handling of his parents' trust. This guy was a former vice president of Zion's Bank.
Wait, is he saying that Curtin McConkie is the Mormon Mafia?
Yes. He's saying that the Curtin McConkie facilitated the theft of millions of dollars from his family, and that the when he sued them, he lost because there's this big like cover up. People don't want to know all the terrible things happening in the church. But it's
Hmm.
a self-published book, and from what I can tell based on the legal stuff, he has very few assets so people could sue him if for like libel or whatever. But I did look up. He says like here's the case, and it was dismissed without even a hearing. And he talks about this as if this is evidence of the Mormon Mafia. But when I looked at the court documents, basically it was dismissed because they said you can't just make claims and not provide evidence. And he provided no evidence to support his claim. So they're like, we're going to dismiss it on those grounds. And then the other one was you are not a plaintiff. You're not a part of this trust that your parents set up.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can't represent that trust unless you're an attorney, and you're not an attorney. So you can't just show up and then say, I'm suing on behalf of this trust when you have no standing within that trust. So basically, he's not in the trust anyway. Anyway,
Well, you can write a book.
and what a better title than that, The Mormon
Yeah.
Mafia and Me. So based on the title, you might think, let's go read it. Whether you read it or not, I will choose to not read it. I would love for you to tell us. Like, let us know. I
I
read the
will.
Mormon
I'll put
Law.
it in my Amazon cart right now. I'll read it for you. I'll get
Here's,
that done this week. I'll let you know.
here's what he said.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, listener, thanks so much for joining us this week. We would like to encourage you to subscribe to This Week in Mormons on YouTube. Melissa and I are on there every time in fact, all the shows go on YouTube.
Yeah.
Um, I think that you should. Well, we haven't done any interviews in a while, so I'm going to plug my other podcast, The
Okay.
Latter Day Lens. It's a lot of fun. Me and my friend Sean, we get together and talk about politics and current events from a faith promoting perspective. I think
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
We do have an interview coming up soon too with Ben Shalati. We interviewed
Oh,
him
yeah.
earlier, but he reached out to us again. We're going to do another interview with Ben Shalati regarding Pride Month and the Church of
Yes.
Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So yeah, that's
There's
coming
an
up.
event. I forgot. I told Ben that we would plug his event. There's an event going on in Utah. It's the Gather Conference. It's
Mhm.
going to happen in June. So
Yep.
there's still time to get to find out more about it. But the Gather event is a faith promoting event to build relationships between members of the LGBTQ community and members of our church.
Yeah.
So
It's a great event. And if you are LGBTQ, it's for you. But also, if you're a family or a friend of somebody in that situation, please check out the Gather Conference. Yeah.
yeah. If you have any feedback, send us an email at contact@thisweekinmormons.com. You can visit our website where I think it still says that the host is Al and
Jeff
who? Al
Openshaw.
and
So
yeah.
we love them. We love the
Yeah.
original hosts. So
In fact, because of them, this is the original Mormon Latter-day Saint news podcast. And
the
hey,
original Mormon News Podcast.
and thanks for listening.